They're in England, they're in Canada, they're all over the United States, they're in Australia. They're all over the Keys. Now they're all over Dade County and Broward County and into Palm Beach County, Charleston, West Virginia, New York.
All over New Jersey and New York.
It's amazing what Tom's been doing these recordings for almost 2 years now, and they've spread all over. It's amazing how far out they've gone.
It's funny when people are sharing and they say some comments.
We were talking a lot about fear tonight, and I think what we'll do is we'll study Bill's article on fear, which is on page 265 in the language of the heart. So this is our regular Saturday evening, 9:15 Language of the Heart meeting. This is a meeting of the Stairway Group of Alcoholics Anonymous. My name is Jim, and I am an alcoholic. Hi, everybody. We're going to have some fun with this tonight. This is a very informal meeting where everybody chips in. You share as the Spirit moves you. We don't have any rules about double dipping or any of that stuff. The main idea is to as thoroughly exhaust the subject as we can, get everybody's input into it. So let's start our meeting with a moment of silent meditation. We'll say the Serenity Prayer together. Thank you. Serenity Prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Amen. The Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength, and hope with each other. They may solve their common problem and help others recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for a membership. We are self-supporting to our own contributions. And AA is not allied to any sect, denomination, politics, organization, or institution. Nor wish to engage in any controversy. Neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. And who would like to read Outworks tonight? How about you, Larry? Page 58. As a more senior member, it's important that you share with us, if you will, please.
How it works. Chapter 5. Rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path. Those who do not recover are people who cannot or will not completely give themselves to this simple program. Usually men and women who are constitutionally capable of being honest with themselves. There are such unfortunates. They are not at fault. They seem to have been born that way. They are naturally incapable of grasping and developing a manner of living which demands rigorous honesty. Their chances are less than average. There are those, too, who suffer from grave emotional and mental disorders. But many of them do recover if they have the capacity to be honest. Our stories disclose, in a general way, what we used to be like, what happened, and what we are like now. If you have decided you want what we have, and are willing to go to any lengths to get it, then you are ready to take certain steps. At some of these we fought. We thought we could find an easier, softer way, but we could not. With all the earnestness at our command, we beg of you to be fearless and thorough from the very start. Some of us have tried to hold on to our old ideas, and the result yell until we let go absolutely. Remember that we deal with alcohol, cunning, baffling, powerful. Without help it is too much for us. But there is one who has all power. That one is God. You find him now. Half measures avail us nothing. We stood at the turning point. We asked his protection and care with a complete abandonment. Here are the steps we took which are suggested as a program of recovery. 1. We admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. 2. Came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. 3. Made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him. 4. Made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. 5. Admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrong. 6. We're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. 7. Humbly asked him to remove our shortcomings. 8. Made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. 9. Made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. 10. Continue to take personal inventory, and when we're promptly wrong, promptly admitted it. 11. Sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood him, praying only for knowledge of his will for us and the power to carry that out. 12. Having had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs. Many of us exclaimed, "What an order, I can't go through with it." Do not be discouraged. No one among us has been able to maintain anything like perfect adherence to these principles. We are not saints. The point is that we are willing to grow along spiritual lines. The principles we have set down are guides to progress. We claim spiritual progress rather than spiritual perfection. Our description of the alcoholic, the chapter to the agnostic, and our personal adventures before and after make clear 3 pertinent ideas. A. That we were alcoholic and could not manage our own lives. B. That probably no human power could have relieved our alcoholism. And C. That God could and would relieve us.
Good, thanks very much, Larry. Okay, open your books up to page 265. Page 265 in the language of the heart. As the AA book says, fear is an evil, corroding thread. The fabric of our lives is shot through with it. By the way, that is found on page 67 in our big book. Fear is surely a bar to reason and to love, and of course it invariably powers anger, vainglory, and aggression. It underlies maudlin guilt and paralyzing depression. Now that's a very interesting sentence, only 7 words which have 2 very profound thoughts. And we don't want to just slip by the sentence. We need to think what it says. It underlies maudlin guilt. When we think of the 9th step, and we know that we need to make amends in order to be freed from our guilt, what sometimes we do not understand is that our guilt is fear-driven. We feel guilty because we are afraid of the consequences of what we've done. And we're afraid of being caught. We're afraid of being found out. And so that we find that fear is as much an underlying force and factor in our guilt as it is in our defects. Underlies maudlin guilt and paralyzing depression. But again, fear is the progenitor of depression. And most people don't like to hear that. They want to hear that there's some sort of physical cause for it or some deep psychological cause. And yet, I'm convinced that this is true. that for most people who are suffering from depression, their real problem is their overwhelming fear and anxiety. And of course, there's some great hope in that, because in our big book and in our steps we have a spiritual remedy for fear. As a matter of fact, here's the truth of it. Every time we feel bad, without any exception, there's a fear involved. If you're feeling bad, the first thing you ask yourself is, okay, what are you afraid of now? And we start doing some writing, because sometimes we have to write it down before it really begins to come clear to us. Fear is our enemy. It is the only enemy we have. We'd like to think there are all these other things out there are enemies. They're not. At the bottom of it is fear, which is out to kill us. Going on, President Roosevelt once made the significant remark that we have nothing to fear but fear itself. That was just after he had said, I hate war. My dog Fella hates war. My wife Eleanor hates war. And I hate my wife Eleanor. Okay. He had his fireside chats every Sunday night. Next paragraph. Now this paragraph pays lip service to the fact, especially at first, it is helpful to be driven by fear to do the things we must do to help ourselves. Also, that fear can be something which leads us away from injustice and immoral and dangerous and illegal acts. However, it begs the question. The real question is the one which is stated in our big book, in Freedom from Bondage, that we do what we ought to do because we want to do it. And ultimately, that's our goal here. Not to have to depend upon fear in any respect to do the next right thing. This is a severe indictment and is possibly too sweeping. For all its usual destructiveness, we found that fear can be the starting point for better things. Fear can be a stepping stone to prudence and to a decent respect for others. It can point the path to justice as well as to hate. And the more we have of respect and justice, the more we shall begin to find the love which can suffer much and yet be freely given. So fear need not always be destructive. And here's the reason. Because the lessons of its consequences can lead us to positive values. Translate that, the person walking in the door, the lessons of consequences can lead them to accept what we have to offer, to accept the spiritual way of life as a alternative to the way they've been living. The achievement of freedom from fear is a lifetime undertaking, one that can never be wholly completed. When under heavy attack, acute illness, or in other conditions of serious insecurity, we shall all react, well or badly as the case may be. Only the vainglorious claim perfect freedom from fear, though their very grandiosity is really rooted in the fears they have temporarily forgotten. That's a pretty interesting statement too. Bill just turns the thing right around and twists it. That our grandiosity is the result of the fears that we have put aside. In other words, our grandiosity was our way of combating or compensating for our fears. Right? Okay. Therefore, the problem of resolving fear has two aspects. We shall have to try for all the freedom from fear that it is possible for us to attain. Then we shall need to find both the courage and the grace to deal constructively with whatever fears remain. Trying to understand our fears, which means, as the Big Book tells us, that we are to seek out the threat, seek out the causation. What is it that we are reacting to? What is it that is causing us to perceive a threat? And we write this down when we do our inventory. Trying to understand our fears and the fears of others is but a first step. The larger question is how and where we go from there. Now that's always going to be true, and remember that the difference, one of the major differences between AA program and the human solutions will teach us about ourselves, probably take a good look at our fears, but nowhere do they show us how to be free from those. Nowhere do they take us beyond that to the admission of our fears and then to seeking a solution with God, because ultimately that's the only solution. Since AA's beginning, I've watched thousands of my fellows become more and more able to understand and to transcend their fears. These examples have been of unfailing help and inspiration. Perhaps then some of my own experience with fear and the shedding of it in an encouraging degree may be appropriate. We're going to pass over Bill's stuff, but let's get down on page 266. We're going to get down to the nitty-gritty here. Page 266, the last full paragraph, which begins 2/3 of the way down the page and starts out in my own case. The foundation stone of freedom from fear is that of faith. A faith that, despite all worldly appearances to the contrary, causes me to believe that I live in a universe that makes sense. Oh, that's beautiful. To me, this means a belief in a Creator who is all power, justice, and love. A God who intends for me a purpose, a meaning, and a destiny to grow, however little and haltingly, toward His own likeness and image. Before the coming of faith, I had lived as an alien in a cosmos that too often seemed both hostile and cruel. In it there could be no inner security for me. That's a beautiful paragraph. That's one we can easily meditate on. Dr. Carl Jung, one of the three founders of modern depth psychology, remember he's the guy who worked with Roland Hazard, had a profound conviction upon this great dilemma of the world today. In paraphrase, this is what he had to say about it. Any person who has reached 40 years of age and who still has no means of comprehending who he is, or where he's next going, cannot avoid being a neurotic to some degree or other. This is true whether his useful drives for sex, material security, and a place in society have been satisfied or not satisfied. When the benign doctor said becoming neurotic, he might just as well have said becoming fear-ridden. Because again, we're going to find, if we look carefully, that this idea of being neurotic is not used much anymore. I guess they've got a lot of different terms for the same thing. But it's the same thing as becoming fear-ridden. In other words, that behind all of these neuroses is fear. And I believe that's true. This is exactly why we of AA place such emphasis on the need for faith in a higher power, define that as we may. We have to find a life in the world of grace and spirit, and this is certainly a new dimension for most of us. Surprisingly, our quest for this realm of being is not too difficult. Our conscious entry into it usually begins as soon as we have deeply confessed our personal powerlessness to go on alone, and have made our appeal to whatever God we think there is or may be. The gift of faith and of the consciousness of a higher power is the outcome. Bill talks often about the gifts we receive, and I like to emphasize that, because all the stuff that we get here is a gift. We get it because we have done the work that clears the way to receive the gift. As faith grows, so does inner security. The vast underlying fear of nothingness commences to subside. Therefore, we of AA find that our basic antidote for fear is a spiritual awakening. Okay. This is the time we share with each other. And who would like to start? There's a whole bunch of stuff here. Just share from your heart, share as the Spirit moves you, anything that this has triggered in you that you'd like to share with others, or get it off your chest or whatever. Who'd like to start? Linda, you put your hand up.
I was almost up. No.
You-
I'm an alcoholic. My name is Linda.
Hey, Linda.
Hi. Reading this, and by the writing I've done, I'm looking at my fears. My whole life has just been one big fear. Fear of people, fear of places, fear of the future, fear of fear. And I've been constantly trying to find something that would alleviate the fear, but never really going to do the work necessary. And I just wanted it to be a gift. Just let it follow me and let me be free of fear. I don't know why I thought that was going to happen or should happen, or that I was worth it being happening to, but I guess I just never really wanted to work for anything. I just expected life to go on and be good, and when it wasn't, I rebelled. It's a little different today. I'm able to accept things the way they are instead of the way I want them. I'm learning to trust God's will for me. And just take care of my part in the scheme of life today instead of trying to correct everything around me. I'm getting there a little bit, going a little bit every day. I can see it. My family can see it. And that's a good feeling.
Thank you, Linda. Why don't you share with us how this came about? How did this transformation come about for you?
Through working with steps. By becoming honest with myself and another person, my sponsor. Being able to talk to somebody and really just let it go. And praying. And a lot of journaling and writing. And more praying. And more honesty. Just being honest with myself and God. It's happening. It hasn't been not anywhere near perfect. But I'm working towards that perfection now instead of just expecting it. And I'd like to be blessed.
Good. Thank you very much for that, Linda. Who's next now? I want to hear from my friend Pat. Yeah, you, Pat. Yes, sir.
More of the listening mode.
No,
Make sure
no problem, man. Anything come to mind?
right. There's a lot of thoughts running through my head that organized and focused.
Okay. Later, man. Later. We'll hear from you later. Who's next?
My name's Tom, I'm an alcoholic.
Hey, Tom.
I got a fear I had the last couple of days, not getting my share, my cut. And then I'm sitting here, as Jim was reading, and I'm already getting it. You know, I always just want more. I'm afraid I'm not going to get more, get what I want. And get what I'm supposed to get. That's what I'm realizing. And then I have fear that people not giving me the respect that I think I deserve, or that I get, that I get the illusion I deserve, you know, or I'm drunk, period, I'm drunk, I'm getting better. And I had to ask God, and when Linda was sharing, that, remember, I started, Jim asked how that was working, how my fear was being removed. And I asked God, I go to God, and I ask God, and He gives me the strength or the power, however you want to look at it, to get through these and face them. It gives me the courage. That's what higher power is. Courage, faith, however you want to look at it. Strength to get through whatever I have to be up against. Or whatever my mind puts me up against. And which usually really isn't there. My mind is telling me to.
Thank you, Tom. Who's next? One of the J girls here. Flip a coin and speak up, girls.
All right. My name's Jill, and I'm an alcoholic.
Hello, Janelle.
And what really stuck out to me was let me find that sentence. Okay. I don't know. This is where I really started to feel the promises come true, when I started to truly believe this, that to me this means the belief in a creator who is all-powerful, justice and love, a God who intends for me a purpose, a meaning, and a destiny to grow. And because we talk about our instincts being warped, for sex and society and security, and I just was so afraid I was just going to amount to nothing, and just be a nothing, and that if I was going to be a nothing, then why should I be here? And, when I decided that I was worth salvaging and decided that I wanted to do the work to get better, even though I had fears about, how it would all end up, I just was taught that, I do have a purpose. There is a reason why I'm here. Even when fear crops up, it's not the fear I used to live with. It's different. Sometimes, I don't know, I had a meeting and I had to go speak for my job to another company, and when I went there, the meeting did not go the way I expected it to go, and people were walking out, and the owner was, interrupting, and I had a bad feeling about the whole thing. And at first I was agitated because they invited me there to give a presentation, but yet they really didn't want to give a presentation. But when I walked out of the meeting, I thought about it, and when I got home I wrote about it, but I was afraid that, I lost control of the meeting. They didn't hear what they were supposed to hear. They didn't have respect for me, and all these things, and I was the resentment and the selfishness that I thought the meeting should go exactly how I was going to run it, and I was in charge. Fears like that, and regardless, today, it's just not like that for extended periods. I know what to do with spiritual tools, and they work, but I don't know, I believe I have a purpose. And that I am growing every day and changing. It's pretty awesome stuff.
Thank you, Janelle. Who's next?
Paul, an alcoholic.
Hey, Paul.
And that, what Janelle was just talking about was something that, when fear crops up, now, it's like, after using the spiritual solution and knowing how to use it by writing it down and telling somebody and praying for God to remove the fear, and it work every single time, and that still amazes me. And it probably will amaze me until I die. I mean, it's just, I can't believe that all the fear that I had, I have a solution for now. And that fear that Janelle was talking about, I don't know if it's not getting your way, but not having everything, not being able to control everything. I think you said, Jim, that's really, like, selfishness is that fear of not, like, if we don't control everything, that things aren't going to go right. And that's something that I've really been realizing, because I really have been looking at my 10th and 11th step, and thinking, oh, how am I selfish? I'm doing all these selfless things, but, when I feel that fear, I can always now, usually trace it back to that fear that if I don't exert my will and control something, that it's not going to turn out right. Instead of just, leaving it in God's hands and doing the work and leaving the results up to Him. That's a really easy way to make myself pretty miserable, and sitting there trying to figure out why I'm miserable. What is this fear? Instead of just doing the next right thing and leaving the results up to God, which would make it a lot easier for me.
Thanks, Paul. Over and over again we hear that fear is the absence of faith. But I've never heard anybody say that faith is the absence of fear. That's kind of an interesting one to puzzle about. And I'm also concerned whether it is that simple or not. That fear is the absence of faith. My personal belief is that fear is the natural consequence of our feelings of being threatened in some way. But that the feelings of threat, if they are counteracted by faith, cannot lead to fear. In other words, I may feel that there's a threat there, but my faith is strong enough to believe that God will handle it. That I don't have to be afraid. So I think that faith breaks the connection between threat and the coming of fear. That we can recognize many threats, and they're all over the place. We're threatened in many directions. The question really is whether those threats are disconnected by faith from the coming of fear, because otherwise fear is the natural consequence of feeling threatened. Just food for thought. Who would like to comment? Bob, we'd like to hear from you tonight. Yeah, you.
Okay. I'm Bob. I'm an alcoholic. What stood out for me was grandiosity, being fear turned around. Something that you had said much earlier was that when people go around the rooms and they sound really good, and people will buy it for a while, but after a while they'll judge you by your actions. A lot of times there's what I like to term room gurus, and they do captivate like the newcomers and people who aren't not quite sharp. And I started hating or resenting these people very strongly, and I couldn't put together why. But then people were like buying into it, and of course, if you could see through their act, it really shouldn't bother me. But my fear was that people were listening to them and buying it. And because I had known better, or because I saw them in group conscious meetings and I saw what they were really saying in life. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to, I did. This is an admittance. I was at a picnic, an AA picnic, and somebody said at a pretty girl, she goes, "And these people really work the program." And she mentioned these two guys' names. And I character assassinated her. I tried to set her, just watch out, whatever I said. But however, this, and with your help, made it so clear that these people are just actually in a great fear that, they're relying that their ego might be, standing on their words alone, that they might be found out. That's it.
I had a recent example of that kind of grandiosity and stepping in where neither are you expected, nor are you wanted, nor are you welcome. There's a lady whom I've been sponsoring for about 2.5 years, and she's sober and doing very well, very, very well. she moved down to the Keys, and the first meeting she went to down there, she mentioned something about my sponsor, and then she said he, and there's this guy who came up to her immediately afterwards and said, "You can't have a man sponsor. What are you talking about? You're going to be drunk tomorrow," and all this stuff. The same guy, I'm now his sponsor. And he's recognized the error of his way. But we do that kind of stuff all the time if we don't watch ourselves. It's so easy to get overwhelmed with our sense of our own importance. How wonderfully spiritually mature we are when all these other people are still playing in the sandbox. We have to let them know about it. Who's next? And Pat.
Hi, I'm Pat. I'm an alcoholic.
Hey,
Yeah.
I think I agree with what you had said before about the opposite of fear being faith.
Mm-hmm.
Because the thought that occurred to me
Mm-hmm.
is that there are some things that we don't know what the outcome's going to be. I know, like, in a lot of things, based on circumstances and what you can presently derive or what you can realize from what you know right now. And when I try to project that, what I think should happen, I guess there's the fear side that says, well, if it doesn't go that way, then what's going to happen? And living like that, you can get, all right, at least I got caught up in a lot of just little things that really didn't amount to a whole lot. But when you have faith, or at least when I was believing that, you know what, it's not going to be that bad, provided that you, like you had said, if you work the steps and you've got the tools and you go back. I always had this fear that I'd never get over the obsession of wanting to drink until I let go of it and was able, through with Jim's help, work through the steps, but mostly through the meditation process, because I think that's what I was lacking. And once that happened, the obsession did leave.
Mm-hmm.
It was worried about when it was going to occur that was making it worse than it actually was when it left. It's just really strange. But that, I think faith is the actual opposite force of fear.
So
I don't think you can. Yeah, it's probably the wrong thing to say, but I think there's no healthy fear. I realize that, but I think that out of the fear comes some good things, because I think it'll focus you in on trying to get more faith.
assuming you pay attention to it and do something about it, yeah. But this is, and I'm glad you mentioned that, because it bears repeating that all of these lessons that we have are of little or no value to us unless we do something about them. And that all of the things that we learn about ourselves as we go through our inventories, or even as we are counseled or psychoanalyzed, or however we learn about ourselves, all these things can be valuable if we use them. If we put that knowledge to work. And putting that knowledge to work means to use spiritual principles to be freed from those things which we find which are killing us, which are the serious drawbacks to our lives, and the failures in our lives are attributable to them. That's the problem with human solutions, is that it is assumed that the fact of knowing these things will be enough for us to shed them. Now that I know all about myself, I'll never do this again. But that's just simply not true. And so, because we have to, and it's the same way with the things that cause us fear, that's fine if it motivates us to do something about it. And I agree with you, Pat. That's good. Who's next? Is that my friend Leonard back there? Would you like to share with us tonight, Leonard?
If the word fear can be compared to the word dread, for me it's longevity. I'm 60 years old. came into AA when I was 27. I accomplished what I wanted to do more than I did because I didn't think I'd even have a day or a week. There was so much wrong in it. And what I dread the most is the replication of the same thing. So I've seen the movie 3 times, and having to see it the 4th time and the 5th time. My sister died 4 months ago, chronic alcoholism, Percodan, mouthwash, which is a deadly form of alcohol, ingested for years at a time, and ulcerated. My mother's on the way out. She's 88, and time to die. Everybody I know basically are gone and passed away as far as relationships. In AA, when I came in 1971, the cousins I had are nouveau riche and intolerable to be around. Just can't stomach it. Maybe that's a value judgment. I just can't adjust. And it just leaves me with myself. Is that all there is? Gets to that line. Not in terms of self-pity, or desiring a drink, or desiring a drug, or looking at the Divine Comedy, not afraid, but when does it end? Maybe 20, 25, 30. Starting at 40, things look forward to it, and so on and so forth. But I mean, truly, and I'm just speaking honestly. I mean, I don't know whether I don't think I'm depressed. I mean, it's part of the flight for many years of my own recovery because it was tough. I had chronic fatigue for 9 years, nearly died undiagnosed, didn't know it was Epstein's bar, and I was in there most of the time. But I don't feel sorry about that. I did a lot of reading of other people that have experience here. But it's, you have to, in my case, I have to reinvent a purpose for myself, other than the accomplishments of the college degrees and doing security work and finding out that the electric shock didn't destroy both lobes. Just, you know, there's got to be a purpose. I mean, at peace with God completely. If I enter the lights at night, I wouldn't have to qualm. Attached to my things, they don't mean anything. I pass through them like they're borrowed, on loan to me. So I'm not obsessed with that. I guess it's just a feeling of being detached. Just plain detached. Not afraid, and the dread of excuse me, I'm a lot heaven, bring that to ladder. You take it better than I could, and probably more adjusted than I am. I'm not afraid of the decrepitude of the illness. I'm just afraid of the unenduring time. That's what it is, time. A life sentence versus a lifespan. You know, one looks at it, can look at it different perspective. Maybe mine is more than. But I've felt that way for quite a while. Functioned, I've worked, lots of work, regularly take care of a sick, chronically disturbed person. Being anonymous, 12 years, and managed to take care of my mother's separation from her daughter with all these affirmations, you know. And she's stable, and I just don't know. Where do you go from here at 60? I mean, I had plans, ambitions, I've met them. Not so much not being athletic, putting on weight. I don't care about the body image. Just what do you do all the time? Do you know what I mean?
Yes, Leonard.
Feel, I mean, not the words, the feeling behind it.
Leonard, the one thing of supreme value in this life is to have a purpose, a mission, a reason for being alive. And as one who has lived 14 years longer than you, I'm telling you, don't be in any hurry to cash in, because there's plenty for you to do. Once you make up your mind that your focus is going to be on giving, carrying God's message to others, that's where it all comes down. The big book sets us straight on that. Our real purpose is to fit ourselves to be a maximum service to God and our people about us. And the people in this life who have a purpose, a mission for living, are the ones who are happy, the ones that are healthy, the ones that are healthy mentally, emotionally, and physically, because a purpose keeps us focused on God's will. I know that for a fact for myself. So anyone who was drifting or wondering what it's all about, the only thing that's necessary for us is to find that purpose and to begin to fulfill it. Take that mission and run with it. And boy, does that ever change everything in a hurry. People with a mission in this life are the ones who, they're the engine that drives the rest. And that's all it ever took for me. And it's worked well for me. Do we have any burning desires or irresistible impulses? No? I don't know where this hour goes. It goes flying by, doesn't it, guys? All right, well, we're going to close the meeting up then, and please help Marilyn get this place stick and span so that...
If anybody wants to put money in here, then we've got it to add.
Remember that the spiritually elite will be in here in the morning, so let's not leave a mess for them. Let this circle represent... Oh, there we go. Now we have a circle. Let this circle represent the unity of our fellowship. A moment of silence for those who are still suffering. And then we'll say the Lord's Prayer together. Please remember, we don't say anything after we say Amen. Thank you. Lord's Prayer.
Our Father,
who art in
heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven.
Give us this day
our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, power, and the glory, forever and ever.
Amen. Thank you all for being here. See you next week, God willing, and the creek don't rise.